Tournament of Power continues to reach its conclusion as the universes involved have now found themselves in a very dire situation as both Universe 6 and Universe 2 are nearing the brink of extinction, as both universes are targeted by all remaining fighters on the field, including striking back against those who approach them in order to ensure their survival. But the ultimate question lingers: which of the following two universes, if any, was the unfortunate universe in having to be erased? What is going on, Dragon Ball fans? Welcome to my Dragon Ball Super episode 118 breakdown review entitled Accelerating Tragedy, Vanishing Universes, leading into next week's exciting episode of Dragon Ball Super episode 119, which involves Kitella of Universe 4 having to attack his longtime rival Beerus and having to strike his specific universe, and creating massive problems for Universe 7 as the tournament continues to roll on by. And again, if you guys are new to this channel and of course love Dragon Ball, consider punching that subscribe button, guys, and also click that bell icon. That way you guys can be notified whenever a brand new video is posted onto this channel and sent to you directly on your desktop or PC. Hashtag Dragon Ball Squad, as we've now reached the final month of the year as Dragon Ball Super begins to close off 2017 with its final remaining episodes for the year. And what a way to go out in style in having to witness the complete and utter annihilation of once again another universe having to be shown, but only this time with a twist involved, in which we are going to go more in depth in this episode tonight. But either way, Dragon Ball Super episode 118 portrayed one major factor, and that was the key component of desperation. Now the reason for that was because we found ourselves in a very tight-knit corner with Universe 2 and Universe 6 facing a huge disadvantage when it came to numbers, and the idea that they only had a few warriors remaining in the ring, which was ultimately very critical in their survival rate in trying to outlast every other competitor remaining in the ring, as we kick off Dragon Ball Super episode 118 exactly where we left off, with Goku having to fend off against the Universe 2 warriors, which I think from the beginning Goku shouldn't have done anything from the get-go, because by the end of this episode we see the mobility of Goku, the overall functionality of his character begin to manifest on the surface more and more as he used Super Saiyan Blue, he used Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, and to me it really bothered me because whatever happened to everything Goku had gone through, just for him to be tired and out of stamina, for him to out of nowhere once again tap into Super Saiyan Blue twice in the same episode and having to ring out the Universe 2 warriors. Now, by the end of this episode, Universe 2 and Universe 6 have been erased. I am very glad that Universe 2 was erased, but by the end of it, Universe 6 had one of the saddest moments, I think, throughout this entire series, because the way Champa and Beerus acknowledged each other, it wasn't a moment of sentimental sadness, it wasn't a moment of tear shedding, it was a moment to where Champa was Champa and Beerus was Beerus. Now before we get into that, the overall episode preview for Dragon Ball Super episode 119 looks very dark because everyone seems to be getting attacked by an invisible fighter, and these fighters are of course Universe 4's warriors. They're hidden warriors, as we see Vegeta get dragged on down to the ground, Gohan's getting beat up, Goku's getting beat up, and nobody essentially seems to know where in the world this is coming from because nobody can sense or even pick up on where these fighters are. So we are going to touch up more about this in the episode 119 predictions video and the breakdown for the preview, but nonetheless that preview showcased that Universe 7 now is going to be the ones in trouble because the only ones left are Universe 11, Universe 3, Universe 4, and Universe 7. But going into Dragon Ball Super episode 118, what I really did enjoy was to see how Gohan protected Piccolo, was to see how despite where Gohan was on the totem pole, Piccolo was there to help him along the ways, and executing their teamwork and executing their friendship in seeing Gohan protect Piccolo from inevitable danger, as did Piccolo once back during Dragon Ball Z when Gohan was in trouble. I really enjoyed that moment because it was a reflection onto Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z when Gohan was the one that was in danger and Piccolo was always there for him, and we see how just as Piccolo early on was going to use the special beam cannon, he was interrupted and he fired it off too early, in which it had no significant impact on the Namekians at first until Gohan protected him in using the Kamehameha, and then finally Piccolo impaling both of them as Gohan engulfed them both with his Kamehameha by the very end. It's still kind of wacky to me how Ultimate Gohan wasn't able to hold his own legitimately without Piccolo having to be there to help him. I personally felt as if Ultimate Gohan as a concept, as a character, should have been easily able to fodder these guys early on, because Gohan wasn't his base the entire time until he transformed, and he did fight both of the Namekians off by himself, hand in hand, which I thought was very great. Now, the one thing that really disappointed me was Universe 2. Universe 2 was sucking the energy of love and using the power of love to grow and gain the powers of Brienne and Rosie and all her friends, and not only gaining their powers and abilities, but also gaining their clothing as well, which I thought was really dumb because they looked like the characters that Brienne and Rosie were portraying prior, and these guys that were in the ring didn't really have their own identities, which I think was really dumb. So that was really stupid on their end, and on the fact that finally Goku was on the move, which I thought again was really dumb. But the androids did make the save. Androids 17 and 18, they came in, they were taunting these guys and letting them know that they were the ones that destroyed, you know, Brienne. They wrung out Brienne and her friends, so that really triggered these characters in pursuing them more and more, in which they did have a really cool attack, this black heart-like attack that sunk them deeper and deeper in the tournament stage, and Goku inevitably was forced to use Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken to get himself out of that situation, which again, depending on how you want to look at it, it was a pro and a con at the same time, in the idea that 17 wasn't able to do that. Even though 17 is a very, you know, high class caliber fighter in this tournament, you're telling me that 17 couldn't have gotten the job done in breaking through, but instead you had to have Goku do it? That was really dumb to me. But I will say this, if there was one thing that really bothered me about tonight's episode, it was the overall execution of the Universe 6 Namekians, and the idea that I felt personally they could have done more in this tournament in having to fight other people aside from just Gohan and Piccolo, even though I felt as if all four competitors did vibe off of each other and give off a very good fight. I ultimately feel that they could have executed the Namekians that much better in the tournament by having them fight other people together. And one of the main reasons for that is because if you remember the introduction of the Universe 6 Namekians, they were gonna originally attack Goku when Goku was watching Jiren fight Hit, and to Goku's surprise, it was Piccolo and Gohan that protected him from the Universe 6 Namekians, and ultimately setting that fight up all the way from the get-go. So from the beginning, we saw Gohan and Piccolo fight the Namekians, and I think that it was only fair to see them square off against Piccolo and Gohan just because Piccolo is also a Namekian. But I also felt as if most of these characters, especially from Universe 6, could have been executed better in this tournament, and I personally feel, and nobody out there can refute this, that the Universe 6 Namekians, if anything, have one of the most unique set of combination traits as a suitable duo than any other team that we've seen in the Tournament of Power thus far, with possibly the exception of the Trio of Danger, the androids, and of course maybe the Pride Troopers if you want to look far into that one. But I personally feel that the Namekians could have done more in this tournament aside from just fighting Piccolo and Gohan, but for the moment being, they executed that fight from the beginning, and we've definitely reached a conclusion in having the Namekians fight both Piccolo and Gohan in this episode. But also, more or less speaking about their character development, I also felt as if Goku having to get up and once again having to function and be mobile against the Universe 2 fighters, I think at least, was very, very dumb. And the idea, keep in mind, Goku had fought many other people prior to Jiren and not taking things serious, with maybe the exception of Kale when she first transformed into her berserker state. But then after the fight with Jiren, we clearly saw that Goku was severely injured, very tired, and it was because of Frieza giving him momentary energy that he was able to keep up against Kale, Caulifla, and of course their fusion Kefla. And even after that, after having to reach Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, and then Ultra Instinct, we see Goku once again tired, he's injured, he doesn't seem to have enough stamina, and then a few minutes later, we see him get up and fighting against Zarbuto and having to hold his own against the Universe 2 Namekians, when I feel Goku should have been laid out on the floor the entire time. There should have been no reason for Goku to get up and be functional in any sort of way. Even though I love Goku as a character, I think they should have dedicated at least one entire episode of seeing Goku on the ground, miserable, drained, tired, beat up, in not having any involvement in giving other people the spotlight, but instead we see how Goku once again, by the graces of God himself, got back up and having to continue his fight against the Universe 2 warriors, where I felt as if we should have seen other people have that spotlight role, for example Vegeta, Frieza, Android 17, but of course for the moment being, Goku still held his own, and I really think that if you want to build up this fight with Goku and Jiren, have Goku recover, at least just as we saw against Kid Buu. If you guys remember back when Goku fought Kid Buu, he told Vegeta, I need just 1 minute to recover. If I can gain my stamina back for just 1 minute, I should be fine to go afterwards. And instead, we saw Goku fall back and Vegeta having the spotlight and having to fight Kid Buu. Now fast forward in Dragon Ball Super, even after everything he's been through, we see Goku yet again stand back up and having to continue further. And that was the one flaw I felt about this episode, was the fact that he was still fighting, in the idea that I think personally we should have seen other people having to protect him instead of Goku just once again having to stand back up and holding his own against the other fighters, which again they did. We saw 17 and 18 protect him, but what about Frieza? He was standing there and watching the entire thing and didn't really want to acknowledge Goku or protect him, which I thought was kind of sloppy, because what's the point of having Frieza around if he's only going to stand around and watch? And Goku using Kaioken and Super Saiyan Blue, it was horribly done. I think they should not have done that because it degrades and devalues everything Goku had been through, but I think ultimately it did make up with the Universe 6 Namekians having to fight Gohan and Piccolo, because as intense as that was, that told its own story in the idea that the Universe 6 Namekians have fused with all of their people from Universe 6 to create these two fighters to give them a better chance at survival, which I think they copied the Dragon Ball Multiverse fan manga, because in that manga we saw how every single Namekian from one specific universe had merged in creating one ultimate fighter, but instead of having one, they had two here, which again was pretty cool. But I think the overall sadness of this episode was what really drove me to enjoy it, because even by the very end, with Universe 2 having to say bye-bye, being erased, I think was very sad. But also Champa stuck through and he stayed true to his character. Now, a lot of people were wondering if Beerus was going to cry, if Champa was going to cry, but instead they actually swerved everybody in making Beerus more serious than anything else, which is a brotherly thing. If your brother was eliminated despite your relationship with them, you're still gonna feel some type of way. So Beerus, he did feel some type of way, even though Beerus isn't really known for being expressive or expressing his emotions like that. The way he looked at Champa and then he turned back around, he was hoping that he would say something, but instead Champa kind of gave him like the finger, he rolled his eye down, and then he just got erased. So that was very sad to see. Despite everything else, in the beginning Champa did panic, but by the very end he stayed true to his character and he left. Now, as for Hit, I was hoping that maybe he was going to acknowledge Goku and saying something under his breath and saying finish what we started or something, but Hit didn't really say much, which again, you can't really fault Dragon Ball too much for that. But Kabe on the other hand actually had something to say in wishing his master good luck and hoping that Vegeta gets the job done. And by the very end, it looks like Vegeta is locked, loaded, and ready, but in the preview it looks like they're all having trouble. Now, the only reason why they're having so much trouble is because, if you guys don't know, Daemon and his brother, they're very microscopic in terms of size. So they're there, but you can't really see them because they're so small, almost like invisible warriors. So either way, this episode, I think, made up for a lot of mistakes for last week, even though the biggest thing I would have to say as a critic, and again, don't take this as if I'm hating on the show or the character, but after everything Goku had been through, how or why in the world is he able to go blue or use Kaioken's beyond me? At this very point, instead of crying out ass pull, I'm just gonna start saying, well, it's just Goku. Everything that Goku does by the end, I'm just gonna say, well, it's Goku, so what more do you expect? Because I really wasn't expecting for him to even be mobile as much in this episode, because in last week's episode, he had trouble standing up. Like, he legitimately was stumbling around, and he even told Zarbuto and the other fighters, if you want to fight, I'll fight you. But even here, it's like he had assistance from the androids, and by the very end, he dished out everything he could to break through the Black Heart attack to penetrate and ring out the Universe 2 fighters. But you have to ask yourself, you know, how functional is he going to be as we carry on with this? So for me, I did not agree with that kind of concept, because Goku needs to be away. Goku needs to be sidelined for a minute because he's doing too much. However, it is the final month of December, so this is Goku's tournament. He called for this in defense for, him having to fight the strongest, but also to protect, Universe 7's chances in survival. So I would like to know what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. Did you guys agree or disagree with the overall concept for this episode? What are your overall thoughts on Universe 6 having to be erased in the way they were erased, in Champa having to stay true to his character, sorry, and also RIP Universe 6, because I'm not too, fond of Universe 2, so I can really care less about them. But Universe 6, man, we started off Dragon Ball Super technically after the movies with the very first arc, which I consider to be the Champa arc after the retelling of the films, and to see Champa go like that, it's actually kind of sad. So post your comments down below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you guys also enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure to go ahead and slap a like down below. Subscribe if you guys are new. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.